Well, we're going to turn now to Washington and Atlanta. The latest on the indictment of former President Trump. Trump is now claiming he's going to hold a news conference on Monday, he says, to release what he calls, quote, an irrefutable report that would prove his false claims of election fraud in Georgia, despite all the responsible officials in Georgia, elected officials, courts, saying there was no stolen election there. It's unclear what evidence Trump has, why it might not have been presented in any of the court cases he's filed the last couple of years, but Donald Trump's going to do what Donald Trump does. Trump's charged now with 13 counts in Atlanta, including racketeering. The indictment putting him atop a, quote, criminal organization, as the indictment says, that includes 18 aides, attorneys, and associates, and 30 unnamed co-conspirators, all, according to the indictment, allegedly co-conspiring to strong-arm Georgia into helping Trump cling to power. Trump's ex-vice president, Mike Pence, is also responding to the Georgia indictment for the first time today while he was on the campaign trail in his home state of Indiana.
Despite what the former president and his allies have said for now more than 2.5 years, and continue to insist to this very hour, the Georgia election was not stolen, and I had no right to overturn the election on January 6th.
That's Mike Pence. This all comes as Trump's former chief of staff is trying to move his own trial to federal court. So, joining us now with more is criminal defense attorney Andrew Fleischman, who practices law in Georgia with a focus on the First Amendment. And Andrew, thank you for joining us. Glad you're here. It feels like, to me, as a layperson, an enormously complex case. And just big picture, what do you make of the charges Trump is facing in Georgia, particularly that they've been framed in this sweeping RICO charge that he was part of that he led a criminal organization, a racketeering organization? What do you make of that?
They strike me as aggressive. Certainly, there's stuff there that's illegal, false statements, trying to get people to sign these false elector certificates. Then you also have stuff like trying to persuade the Georgia General Assembly to do something. And typically, when you are asking a legislative body to do something, even if it's a bad idea, that's sort of core First Amendment speech. So on counts like that, I question why you bring it that way.
Yeah, and it does seem like it's going to involve a lot of political activity that is characterized, given the ultimate goal of the enterprise, according to the prosecutor, was something illegal, and that there were illegal acts committed, that all of this will be framed as a criminal operation. Now, we mentioned you specialize in First Amendment law, and we hear critics of this prosecution saying, especially, people who support Donald Trump, that it's trying to criminalize his free speech. He may be wrong. He may even have been lying. But, lots of politicians have done that. So what makes Trump's lies that the election was stolen, in this case, criminal rather than political? How would you explain that?
Well, because he was seeking to obstruct the counting of the Electoral College votes, that's enough to go ahead and turn that into a criminal act. Now, there is a U.S. Supreme Court case, it's called Alvarez, and it says that false statements on their own, like, hey, I won a Medal of Honor, and that's a lie. That alone is not enough to be criminal. But when you seek something of value, or when you lie to the government, that's outside the bounds of the First Amendment. And here, of course, these are statements to public officials in order to get them to do things like, hey, certify these people who didn't really vote, or, hey, find 11,000 votes here in the state that don't actually exist for me so that I win the election. When you're seeking something of value and you use a lie towards that end, you're in the fraud territory. You're away from the First Amendment.
Right. You don't have free speech to issue threats or fix prices in a hotel room or whatever. That's very helpful. I'm going to play a thought experiment here, if I may. I'm going to make you Donald Trump's lawyer. What would be your strategy here?
Oh, federal removal is a very smart strategy. It's the first thing I do. Gets you a better jury pool. Gets you likely friendlier judges. It gets you the opportunity to delay the case because federal courts have to certify questions to state courts as they go. And in the 11th Circuit, I think he has a real shot of having his case removed. So there's so many strategic advantages of that. It makes total sense. Second, I'd file a general demurrer. Some of these counts don't fully allege crimes. For instance, the counts with Ruby Freeman about going to talk to her in a misleading way might not be a crime under Georgia law. I'd raise the First Amendment defense to the counts where you're trying to convince the General Assembly to do things. And then also, Georgia has an immunity statute where if you are trying to assist law enforcement in some kind of way, you can claim immunity. Well, Trump's claim is going to be, oh, well, here's why I believe this was true. I thought I was assisting in law enforcement. So he could file for an immunity motion to go ahead and have a chance to establish that in court. Not to say that he'd win, but it would take significant time and would be like a trial in and of itself. So there's lots of ways that he can delay things and kick counts out and make this just very difficult for the state.
All right, well, that actually makes a lot of sense to me. Beware, you may get a call. Trump is in the market for lawyers there. Andrew Fleischman,
Hopefully.
thanks very much for explaining that. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Pleasure.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.